Alrighty. Hello, hello. Everyone tuning in. Fingers crossed. I hope we are live. Great to see. Hey, some folks already hanging out with us in chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. Should be over on YouTube, should be over on LinkedIn, should be on Twitter, X, should be on Twitch, having some fun. And hey, diving into another Just Hacking Training live stream. Look, it's a big day today, if I may say. I have been running around trying to get prepped and ready for a lot of extracurricular. A little bit of the NomCon capture the flag. We'll chat a little bit about that super duper soon, and all the other CTF shenanigans up in the air. But look, if you know the spiel, you probably maybe clicked in because, hey, we want to dive into a little bit of quantum computing and quantum programming. And Ellie is the star of the show. She's been here with us before, and we'll dive into that in just a little bit. But if you know the spiel, it's usually like a 5 or 10 minute monologue from me to just share the announcements, to lay out some info, to make sure folks are up to speed on everything that we're up to, hanging out over in the Just Hacking Training venture direction, that arm. But the other fun thing that we've been chasing, another spinning plate and everything to help get some more education, awareness, cybersecurity, learning, training, focused technical training for all levels out and about. So with that, forgive me. Let me do the thing. Let me go ahead and screen share. And actually, hey, before I go away and go tiny, you might have seen it. We have shirts now. We have shirts, we have stickers, all this cool stuff. We were out and about for a lot of different conferences and travel just recently, and it felt really good to be able to hand out some swag and to, hey, let other folks kind of see what we're all about, and some other sweet representative, all of our all-star kind of cadre, cohort, all-star instructors that were help spreading the word. So super cool stuff. Anyway, I've been rambling for 2 minutes already, and let's dive in. Hey, I do want to go ahead and showcase, once I share my screen, after I move and organize different windows, I will get this up and running. That's the fun of doing it live. Let me go ahead and screen share and pull up JHT. Cool. Is audio okay? Is Mike chopping? I see some sentiments in the chat. But check it out. Justhacking.com is where everything that we've been offering now recently in a lot of different courses and a lot of different paths and training education, upskill challenges that are free, that are, hey, accessible, easy, $0 price tag, hackalongs that capture the flags. And before we dive in case the top question at the top of your mind is, hey, is this live stream going to be recorded? Because if you can't catch it right now in the moment, yes. The answer is yes. The answer is always yes. And if you were to take a look over the top of the justhacking.com navigation, the events page here clues us in as to everything that we are up to, whether it's all online with live streams that we have upcoming, past events, past recordings, past sessions together with them, and then what we're up to IRL, in the real world. And appreciate you all hanging out with us in May now, the third week of May. So there's new content and things out the door. But it's been a lot this month. It's been a lot of travel. I was just away over for Hack SpaceCon and B-Sides Tampa over in Florida. And big thank you so much for the folks that were able to hang out, say hi, shake hands, chat a little bit. And if you tuned in to my keynote for B-Sides Tampa, thank you so much. I think that was well received. Seemingly was a positive reception. Look, a couple other cool things cooking up next on the docket for us. If you are attending the Central Ohio InfoSec Summit, if you're there, I think yesterday and today, please be sure to come say hi. We will be hanging out with the IoT or Internet of Things Village, and you can participate in the MQTT lab that we have, kind of a hands-on interactive exercise and activity to do some of those Internet of Things security stuff. And coming up next, we will be sponsoring ThoughtCon and B-Sides 312 out of Chicago. So if you're in that area, again, please come say hello. It would be phenomenal to see you. With that, let's get to the old page, the rest of the stuff that we can chat about with all the latest releases, because it is the third week of the month and we've got new content coming out the door. Look, we have said for the longest time that when we're putting together Just Hacking Training, we want the majority of this thing to be free, to be name your price, to be pay what you want, to be pay what you can. And the best charge onward in that direction are the upskill challenges. And these are free. They're simple. There's, if I may say, bite size, short and simple and easy, only about 10 to 30 minutes of student time to be able to cruise through it. And they're all about some really cool, unique stuff. Previously, we had a lot of things with the quantum computing and the quantum programming that we'll dive into soon with Ellie. But for this month, there's a lot that we wanted to be able to help showcase. We put out, I think now maybe 4 upskill challenges for this round of material, and you can go get them. You can dive in. Justhacking.com. Now I think we are up to 50 different offerings, things that we can bring to the table with Just Hacking training and all the material. And that's pretty cool to have 50 unique different upskill challenges, hackalongs, courses and paths, etc. And almost 20 of them, I think 20 is the number for upskill challenges. And we can keep that going for the rest of the Name Your Price, Pay What You Can stuff. But in case you missed it, I'm sorry I didn't give it as much love as I should have. The Threat Hunting Reports is the latest upskill challenge from Jennifer Funk, who's been doing some incredible CTI stuff, and she is a badass, doing phenomenal, great things. We need to get a shirt sent over for them, and one of the coolest things is we do have ladies' cuts for the shirts. I think that is very, very necessary, and I'm glad we got to squeeze it in. Other than that is Sysmon. Hey, this is another opportunity for a lot of the endpoint detection capabilities, endpoint telemetry, inside information on a Windows host. This is all put together by Anton Ovrutsky. So if you've played with our Constructing Defense course, his giant, incredible, and phenomenal, huge lab environment to be able to have a full Active Directory domain, Kubernetes, cloud shenanigans. Anton is a wizard. So big shout out to him, and Sysmon is the latest on deck with that. And another super cool one that I am so excited about is satellite security. I know it's not all just, ones and zeros, hacks thrown out like cross-site scripting and SQL injection and stuff. No, we thought we might add a little bit of satellite security in there. This is off the heels of Hack SpaceCon, and we wanted to join forces, really giving some love to Hannah Schmitz, also known as Word, over there with the CT Cube team, and did want to give them some love because they have been great to work with and phenomenal to be able to put out a satellite security training and material. It's so cool. Cybersecurity in space. And again, this is, hey, for your learning. So a little bit of education and things to be able to read up and get smart on, and then a quiz to be able to assess yourself. That's the format for upskill challenges. But if you wanted to get into anything a little bit more and more hands-on, you've got the hackalongs, you've got the capture the flags. And the next on that is the latest release on the CTF world is we are opening the vault for the CyberJutsuCon Capture the Flag we hosted in 2023. We're also doing a bundle in the spirit of NomCon CTF 2025, kickstarting today, right after this live stream, and I'm running around for that. You can get everything that we do have out about right now for the Huntress CTF, for the past NomCon, for the previous Sneak, and now CyberJutsuCon, all for 50% off, and you can get all of those. But with that, NomCon CTF is all online at ctf.nomcon.com. Please go do play. I know that's not strictly in the JHT direction, but it is another thing that I'm running around for. So I'd really love if you want to tune in and play. We have so many cool challenges for you that I'm genuinely excited about because I'm hoping to see the reception. But with that, quantum computing is another direction that I did want us to dive into. And that is another upskill challenge that Ellie has put together. And Ellie is the special guest today. So we want to make sure we can give her the warm welcome and introduction as needed. But before I do, let me double check that I have read through all of the things that I'm supposed to say. My notes, my announcements, and the spiel. Yeah, a couple quick, cool other things, and we'll go way back for this. Ellie's course, Ease Me Into Cryptography, does have a 20% off active thing at the moment. So if you want to get a little bit sharper on the low-level numbers and math and equations and crypto behind the scenes, that is an option for you. And while we have had a lot of upskill challenges and Capture the Flags released for this week as the third week of May, as we dive into June, the next time we get together for another live stream, we will be hanging out with Corey Macy, Some folks might be familiar with her work. She's, I think, at Corgi on a lot of social media. She has been doing phenomenal stuff with the Social Engineering Village. I know she's heavily involved in DEF CON, and along with B-Sides Nashville just as well. So incredible community member, and she is putting together a course on phishing and a technical, extremely on the keyboard, really hands-on, working with all the tools and understanding the lingo to do legitimate phishing and social engineering entry points and access. The subtitle for the course is Phishing, a Technical Course for Hackers. So I think that'll be awesome. And I think that'll be really cool. And I'm looking forward to her expertise coming to the table. But that's enough me rambling. Ellie is the star of the show today. And I think I clocked in at just like 10 minutes. I think I got that all on time. I hope. Well, with that, I can open the door for Ellie if that's a-okay. Hey, my friends backstage, can you hear me okay? Sounding good so far? Ready to come on? Cool. I love the cue. Appreciate it. I will bring Ellie in and we'll have some fun. Hey there, Ellie. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Audio's all good. Can you hear me okay? Chat, nobody know. Is audio good? Normalization levels and volume?
Everybody can hear everybody, hopefully.
Well, Ellie, I'm stoked to see you. I was, reminiscing back on all the travel that we've been doing, running around, and we were at RSA, and we finally got a chance to catch up with each other. Great to finally meet you in person and say hello over on the show floor.
I know.
But you've been all over the place just as well, right?
Yeah, we've both been running around, but it's all been good things. Yeah, it's been a busy start to the year, but I had a really good time at RSA. I love conferences for getting to say hey to people in person. So.
Well, I know we spent some time together on a live stream before, but would you mind filling in the gaps or just kind of coloring the picture for folks that, I don't know, maybe are now tuning in for the first time and don't know you and don't know what you're up to and all the things that you're about? Can you, I don't know, do your spiel, your introduction?
Yeah, my elevator pitch. Yes. So for anyone I haven't met yet, I'm Ellie. I'm a software engineer by training. I started my career kind of deep in the weeds doing C programming, working on crypto libraries, which is how I wound up kind of in the cryptography and cybersecurity space. But ventured through the tech world in a bunch of different roles, wound up in venture-backed startups and just loved it. Lately, I've been working with a lot of early stage non-technical founders to help them get things built up like a trusted MVP, if you will, something that's kind of secure and good to go from the start so they don't have to rebuild. And that kind of led into a brand new project that is just launching called Yalla, which is automated and live software architecture documentation. So it's kind of that same, we sort of like went through this process in the cybersecurity world where we're like, wait, we can't see any of these logs, we should see them. And that's kind of where software architecture is right now. Like we just don't, it's hard to see, so that was what I was after with Yalla.
Can I showcase Yalla for a second, or at least bring it up? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, go for
it. You sent along the website, and I think it's pretty cool. I love the idea. Is there more behind the scenes, or more that you've kind of got up your sleeve here? What else can you tell us?
So basically, Yalla can connect to a code base and do architecture reviews on PRs. It will auto-generate a bunch of basically structured data, and then you can look at it in any way that you want, right? So you can look at architecture diagrams at the really high level. Maybe if you're talking to a non-technical stakeholder, you can zoom all the way down into like functional modules. Maybe you're an engineer trying to get more context about the system. So I think there are a lot of really cool features that could come as we continue to build this out, but it's really just bringing more visibility in an easy to understand way for software systems.
Super cool. Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I hope that wasn't me just throwing a curveball at you, but I did want to make sure, hey, we could give you some love. I think that's awesome.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I'm having a good time.
Well, I don't know if that's the current project or more things that you're up to. It's funny. We've been trying to chase and keep track of what would have been, I don't know if it was the month, I don't know if it was the international month or the international year, but a big celebration for quantum computing, quantum
Yeah.
programming, all quantum things. Am I barking up the right tree? Do you remember? Do you kind of, am I saying that right?
Yeah, what it was called, like, the International Quantum Celebration or something. Yeah, I know, and we had reconnected about it. Yeah, I'm quantum is a really interesting space to me. I kind of bounced into it maybe, I don't know, via a side channel. Like, I was in the cryptography world, and then a lot of cryptographers, this must have been maybe 10 years ago or so, were starting to think about, okay, if this quantum computer thing can break crypto, we need to start thinking about that in the crypto space. And then I was like, what is quantum? What's that? So I started learning more about it, and it's really fascinating. So I'm glad that I was able to kind of dive in, and hopefully we can share with the audience a little bit too.
And I'll be the first to admit, I am very naive. I am very ignorant on that front. It is all above my head. So please, please, please help clue me in. I might be the 5-year-old like asking the explain like I'm five questions. So hold my hand for a little bit of learning if that's okay. But
It's
what are the
it's above all of our
usual?
heads.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've been getting smart on it and super smart on it. So what is, if I may say, the real or tactical like landscape right now? And are a lot of the speculation or a lot of the concerns or a lot of the, I don't know if paranoia is the right word, but when everyone thinks of quantum, they jump to their own conclusions of it'll break cryptography, it'll break computers, the whole world is going to go different directions. Is that
Yeah.
true? Is that a yes for real?
So, okay, it's a good question. So we know all of the math, like we have all of the algorithms and papers proving that, like, okay, we know that Shor's algorithm will break the thing that modern asymmetric cryptography relies on, right? Quantum computers, though, right now in the wild are not even really close to being big enough and stable enough to do this for real. So we know that it will get there, and we can assume, just like has happened for all of history, that the tech will get better and more stable. And we want to be prepared, right? Because a lot of our sensitive information, like we rely on asymmetric crypto to protect a lot of things. Um, but we're still kind of, I would say it's still maybe in the researchy phase. Like there aren't a lot of use cases happening live in the real world, like in production with quantum computers just yet.
That's comforting, I guess, or like good to hear. I mean, it at least reassures me, um, because yeah, maybe I just had my head in the sand. Maybe I've been not paying attention as well as I should have, but I could never tell which of these is the real reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. And it's it's hard too because the implications sound so scary. And so you're like, oh my God, are we ready for this? But I think from my perspective, the tech is really cool. There are a lot of really smart researchers working on, getting bigger, more stable quantum computers. But we've also had researchers working on quantum resistant cryptography. Like we've had people thinking about, okay, how do we get ahead of this, right? Like once we have these computers that can do all these crazy things, what does that actually mean? So there are ways that we are prepared. So I feel a good deal of warmth about that anyway.
And I know you put together quantum computing in one direction and another quantum programming. Are those vastly different in, I don't know, how we even just kind of mentally represent them? Or is it, what
Hmm.
structures the basics and the theory and then what's practical, hands-on and getting a chance to play with it? How do you define those?
Yeah, that's exactly how those two upskill challenges are split up. The first one, quantum computing, is more just like, what is a qubit? How can I think about this? Why is it different from a classical computer? And then the second one, quantum programming, is kind of like, okay, now let's zoom in a little bit, right? We know the difference between quantum and classical. Okay, we know how to write programs for classical computers. How might we do that? Like, how do we even interact with these different types of bits? So that's what the second one is, the programming one.
Super cool. What do you think? What's the best way for us to be able to, hey, in the moment, get a crash course? Is there anything that you'd be willing to showcase? And okay, I remember, I think we were thinking about it quite right. The International Year of Quantum Science and Technology, the
International
IYQ.
year.
Big shout out, big love to that effort. But
Yeah.
what do you think? Is a
Yeah.
demo already in the works for you?
Yeah. You want me to share?
If that's
over.
good, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay. And I saw we had a question come in too,
Oh, good call.
just
Thank you for
asking
catching.
about like post-quantum cryptography and whether the future is AI or quantum. So this is a good question. So post-quantum cryptography is usually referring to quantum-resistant cryptography. So cryptography, remember, is all this math, and it relies on certain mathematical problems. One of those problems is not easily solved by classical computers, which is why asymmetric cryptography works on classical computers. But there's an algorithm called Shor's algorithm that quantum computers can run that does solve this mathematical problem. So when we're talking about quantum resistant or post-quantum cryptography, this is referring to math that is hard for both classical and quantum computers. So it's just like, okay, let's come up with some new algorithms, test them, implement them, and then roll them out. So that's part one. And then asking about kind of the future of AI and quantum, this is an interesting question too. I've been dabbling a bit in the AI space. I guess I'm not really sure. Like, I think these are two kind of different categories of things, and maybe they're both, maybe they like rhyme in the way that they help, right? Because quantum computers will give us tools that are good at things that classical computers are not good at. And AI is like kind of doing that in a way too, right? AI is a little bit like creative and non-deterministic, which is not really how normal programs work. So we're kind of building up this like tool belt of different tools that are good at different problems.
That's a really cool dichotomy. I guess I never really thought about it like quite that way, but I mean, you're exactly right. When what we do in traditional infosec or cybersecurity or just coding and programming, developing, it's like there is an objective procedural truth, and that is just the track that it goes down.
Yeah.
But for a lot of the artificial intelligence world, it's very wimbly and, timey-wimey. A non-deterministic kind of goes into a black box, and it could be a different output every single time.
Yeah.
That's a smart. Sorry, I guess I'd never got that epiphany. Well, it's so obvious.
No, it's cool. And it's like, to be honest, this is part of what I love about the sort of software architecture side of this, like why I started building Yalla in the first place, is that we have a lot of really cool tools at our disposal. AI is another cool one. Quantum, once we get there, will be another cool one. And a lot of like building value for people and solving problems is just being able to like pick the right tools. So yeah, that's kind of how I think about it.
Well, I love this. I'm glad we opened the floodgates on a couple questions, because please, genuinely, for folks tuning in, hey, toss in your questions at any point. I know this is totally an AMA, and we'll get any of those kind of out the door. But you do have the demo. You do have some show and tell. Do you want to dive into a couple more questions now, or table them for after? Where are you feeling?
I'm flexible.
Maybe the demo will answer some of those questions if you'd like to dive in.
Sure, yeah. Okay, so first, I'm actually going to start on this tab. This is my absolute all-time favorite visual if you're trying to like wrap your head around what on earth is a quantum computer. So quantum computers work on qubits, where classical computers work on bits. And classical, I know I've just been like throwing that word around, but that's how people just refer to the type of computers that we have today, right? So any, like your phone, that's classical computer, your laptop, everything that we have already is classical. So classical bits can be a 0, which in this picture is blue, or a 1, which in this picture is yellow. A qubit, you kind of think about it as a sphere, and it can be in any, if it's in superposition, it can be in any state in that sphere. And then when you measure it, it will collapse to whichever of the colors or states it's closest to. So the reason I love this visual, especially with the colors, is you can see like, oh, this one is like green trending blue. It's going to collapse to 0. So that's my favorite visual. I think it also kind of helps to conceptualize why classical computers and quantum computers are good at different problems, because if you think about an algorithm that maybe needs to try a bunch of different combinations of things, if you're operating in the classical world, to like get all of these different colors on this sphere, you're going to have to do a zillion combos of blue and yellow in different amounts a bunch of times over. But the qubit kind of inherently has that because it has all of the colors in its superposition. That's not like exactly scientifically correct the way that I say it that way, but that's how I like to kind of conceptualize, like, oh, it makes sense that it's good at different problems because it's just kind of, it like inherently has these different properties that the normal bit doesn't have. Does that make sense?
Can I regurgitate? And I'm sorry, maybe again my smooth brain, but for a qubit, is it the case that it's no longer just the zeros and ones, but in that visual, in the picture, is it like every conceivable point on the surface area of that sphere? Or is it like, is it even kind of 3D? All the like, almost like infinite 0 all the way to 1, 0.1, 0.2, 0.223, 4, whatever. How does that make a key space, quote unquote?
Okay, that's an interesting question too. So the way that we conceptualize like key values. Okay, so let me back up. There's quantum computing. There's this thing called quantum key distribution.
Whoa.
Which is another just like cool
badass name.
yeah, QKD. You can throw that around and everyone will be like, wow.
I'm smart now.
So this is another cool like security related thing that quantum computers, or like quantum computing, I guess, can do. It gives us, if you look it up, you will see like, oh, it's an unhackable way to distribute keys. What that actually is doing is transmitting information via a quantum channel that we then measure and use as a classical key. Okay, so on this diagram, you would like get all of the qubits that are like, you know, colorful, but then you need to measure it in order to go use it. So we're still kind of collapsing it down to the zeros and ones to go use it. Slightly, I'm going to back up just for 1 second, but I mentioned if you look up QKD, you'll see that it's unhackable, and I did air quotes like this. You see that a lot, but what it actually means is that you will know if someone has eavesdropped on that communication. Ooh. So it's not like, it's not unhackable. It's just that if you see that the key has been seen by someone else, you'll be like, okay, I'm not going to use that one because it's been compromised. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's super interesting.
It's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I'm with you so far.
Okay. Yeah. So that, I think that's just a good, like, let's try to wrap our heads around why these two things are different. So I'll hop over here now. So this is the IBM Quantum Composer. And you can actually, I'm not even signed in. You can access this entire platform without having an account. How's the font size, by the way? Is it like readable?
It looks good to me, but I will relay to chat. Hey, friends, folks tuning in. Can you see text on screen okay? I did set 1080p resolution this time, so don't hate me for that. Nice. Let me know if it looks good. Let me know if you can read it.
Okay. Cool. So what I love about this composer, I'm a very visual person in general, so I like that they have the sphere down here that you can look at. And then as you mess with qubits up here, which I'll show you in just a second, it will show you the Qiskit, which is the Python library that IBM has for doing quantum programming. It'll show you that code on the side. So you can actually just like copy this out into your code editor and go run it. I think if you sign in, yeah, it says sign in to run your circuit. So if you sign in, you could also run this on their computers / sometimes simulators, depending. So, okay, what are we looking at here? So off to the left over here, these are all of the gates. They call them gates that we can apply to the qubits. So something to keep in mind here when you're doing quantum programming, at least with where we are today, there's like less abstraction going on than when you're writing code for normal computers, right? Like we're not operating and telling every single bit when to flip when we're writing normal code, but we're just like, we're not there yet with quantum. So you actually are doing that. You're applying the actual gates. You can think about this if you're doing like AND or XOR or whatever on bits in normal code, which you probably are not. That's kind of what you're doing with these qubits. So all of these are the different gates that you can apply. I have this tab open here, the Quantum Logic Gate Wikipedia, which just shows you the names of all of the different gates and then the operation that they're applying. So we won't go into all of this. Matrices also break my brain a little bit, but quantum computers are doing a lot of matrix math, just short version. So it shows you also the operation that is being applied to the qubit. Okay, and then these are the actual qubits. On IBM's Composer, and I think most of them do it this way, the qubit is initialized in a 0 state. So it's actually initialized in like a classical 0 state. It's just like it measures to a 0 when it's initialized. What else is interesting in here? This down here on the bottom left shows the measured state of the qubit, right? So I know I keep doing these like air quotes, which is probably not super helpful, but basically what that means is the quantum computers, they're going to be initialized in these like measured states. They're not in superposition when they start, but once you start applying gates, they will be, you know, going all around their sphere and going to the different colors and stuff. This down here will show you what that qubit will measure to. So right now we have 2 qubits, and you can see that it's saying this is a probability percentage, which is another technicality of quantum computers. All of these outputs that you will see will often run maybe like 1,000, 2,000 of the same operation, and it will tell you like, oh, 51% of the time it came out to this, 49% it came out to this. Because it's just like, it just depends how the qubit collapses down to 0 or 1 after all these operations are applied. Okay, so it's saying 100% both of these qubits are going to collapse to 0. We see 0, 0. And that's because they both are initialized in the classical 0 state. And then this is what that vector looks like on the sphere. Okay, I feel like I've started to go down tangents and then just like nudge back in. So hopefully that was not too chaotic, but that's kind of a quick guide to what you're looking at when you're in this Quantum Composer view. Okay, I think that the 2 things that are cool that we can look at. So 2 cool properties of qubits that classical bits don't have. The first is superposition. So remember, that's this on the sphere. This is a classical bit, which can only be 0 or 1. The qubit can be anything in there. Property 2 is entanglement. So you can actually like entangle / I don't know, it's not really connecting, but you can like make a relationship between 2 qubits, and then the state of one qubit will actually affect the state of the other. So that's kind of another cool property. And I can show you how to do both of those things in IBM Composer, and then you'll also see it in the code here on the right. So how do we put a qubit into superposition? All you have to do actually is apply this H gate. So what just happened, I put an H gate here, and if we come down here to look, we're going to get, it's saying 0, 0 will happen 50% of the time, and 0, 1 will happen 50% of the time. So what is this telling us? One of these bits is always going to be 0. That's because one of these bits is always going to be 0, right? This Q1 initialized to 0, and we haven't done anything to it. So that one will always come out to 0. Q0, we put into superposition. And down here, we can see that one of the bits is 50% of the time coming out as a 0 and 50% of the time coming out as a 1, which means we successfully put it into superposition. And when it was measured, maybe the 1,000 times the computer ran, half those times it came out and collapsed to a 0, and the other half it came out and collapsed to a 1. Does that make sense?
It does. It's too cool.
Yeah, and it's also like, what on earth? This is not how normal things work.
The composer, though, is very, very slick. Like, just being able to kind of poke and
Mhm.
play, and that visualizer is so cool. That's a really
That's
good
so
resource.
cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
A question came through. Is this a simulator of a quantum computer, just for clarity, or are we running on a real quantum machine? I think the former, right?
Yeah, so most of the time when you're, well, A, when you're in visual views like this, but B, even when you're trying to run your code on like IBM Cloud, or Azure has one as well. I think Google has one too, actually. Most of the time it actually will run on a simulator, unless you specifically say like, I want to run on an actual quantum computer, which you can do. Often you'll be kind of tossed into a queue, and they'll like queue everybody through, so you'll process eventually. The reason for that, though, is because real quantum computers, we kind of touched on at the beginning that they're not big enough yet to solve any of these problems that classical computers can't solve, meaning that we can actually just simulate it with a classical computer and not like use the super expensive actual quantum machine for things that we already have compute power to do. But yeah, you can run stuff on actual quantum computers if you want to.
I was not even tracking that those are like an available thing on AWS or Google or any of those. That's wild.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. It's really cool. Let's just put the second qubit into superposition as well. So, okay, before I do that though, if we can try to predict what will happen here. So we know that when I put the first one into superposition, half the time it collapses to 0 and half the time it collapses to 1. The second qubit is always 0 because it's initialized to 0. We didn't do anything to it. So when we drop this Hadamard, that's the long name for this. When we drop the Hadamard gate onto here, what we should expect to happen is get 25% probability of all 4 of these states, because now both qubits have the like 50% possibility of being 0 or 1. So let's do it. Yeah. So now we can see 25% of the time, both of them measure to 0, 2501, 2510, and 2511.
And I don't know if folks caught it, but over on the right-hand side, right, for the Qiskit or the Python, and forgive me, I don't know if those are one and the same or sort of together, Python or Qiskit or both. But making changes in the drag and drop GUI is, of course, updating and refreshing the code on the right. That's cool.
Yep. Yeah, it's really cool. And what we have here as well, if you guys were reading this and you're like, why is there a quantum and a classical? So this is kind of related. I mentioned in QKD, what we do is like you send the key using quantum information over this channel, but then you measure it and use it as classical data. That's kind of same concept here. So we're initializing a quantum register that has 2 qubits. And then we also need a classical register to store the measured outputs after. So you make the qubits, you measure after you do your circuit, but you have to like store the measurements somewhere. And that's actually all the quantum computers that run today kind of pair alongside a classical computer. That is like an interesting rabbit hole if anyone is interested to look up like these architectures. It's always a classical computer and a quantum computer paired together, and some like adapter layers in between, basically. Okay, so let me take this one off, and the next thing we can do is entangle 2 qubits. So to entangle, we need this gate right here, which is called a C naught. And what you need to do in order to get 2 qubits entangled one of them needs to be in a superposition already. Well, I guess you technically could apply this gate without doing that, but you want one of them to be in a superposition. And then you can put the C0 gate on. You want the control qubit. So this C0 stands for controlled not. So if you think back to like logic class, this is kind of like an XOR gate where you're looking at the first bit to decide if you should flip the second bit. It's kind of like that. So it's going to use the state of Q0 here, which is in a superposition, to affect the state of Q1. So let me take it off and apply it again, just so that we can kind of see the difference in the probabilities here. So before I applied the C0, which puts them into entanglement, we see that the measured outputs are 0, 0 or 0, 1. Okay, once we apply this, now the outputs are 0, 0 and 1, 1. So we know that this worked because these two qubits are entangled. So now anything, kind of, I'm abstracting a little bit here, but like anything that happens to this Q0 is going to happen to the Q1. So we can see that the only output states now are output states where the two values are the same.
Okay.
And you can see over here in the code too, we made the circuit that had the quantum registers and the classical registers. And then we did circuit.h to the first qubit, and that was this gate. And then we did circuit.cx, which is how you add this C0 gate. C0, and we're saying, okay. Yep, we're saying 0 is the control qubit and 1 is the target qubit.
A lot of good questions coming through. Can this operation kind of be reversed, keeping, and I don't know, forgive me if this is the right terminology, keeping the H on both gates for Q1? Or that was a question in the chat. Forgive me if I...
Keeping H both gates on Q1. I guess I'm not exactly sure what the question is asking, but it does bring up, it brings up an interesting point, which maybe is what this person was asking about. So another interesting property of quantum logic gates, let's say, in classical logic gates, you can't always get back the inputs based on the output. So what that means is like there are some logic gates in classical computers where maybe there are like 4 inputs, and let's say you do AND across all 4 of them and get an output. There's more than one set of inputs that could lead to like a 0, and more than one set of outputs that could more than one set of inputs that could lead to a 1. Meaning that if you just have a 0 or 1, you actually don't know what all the inputs were. So all of that to say, those gates are not always reversible because you can't always get to the same input information from the output information. Quantum gates are not like that. Because they operate in like matrix multiplication, it's not lossy. You're not like losing information as you apply gates. You can always apply different gates or whatever to get back to the input state if you want. It's like you preserve all of the information as you apply all the gates.
And are all these operations and kind of a little bit more finer details than what each of those could do? Are those kind of wrapped up, summarized, and all bundled and pretty in your upskill challenge?
Yeah, we do a little bit of this. We do more than just the H and the C0, so you'll get to do a little bit more. Yeah, I think this, I do link to the composer in the upskill challenge, so you'll see the link in there. It's really fun. Like I said, I'm just a visual person, so it's fun to start applying all of these gates and be like, wait, what does it do if I do this? What does it do if I do that? Because all of the gates, what they're doing is like rotating the sphere kind of in some way. And so you can sort of see that happening in this visualization from Composer, which is cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to keep pulling us away. Was there more of the demo, more things you wanted fireworks to set off? Or?
I think if there are more questions, we can dive into those.
There are a ton of more questions. It's awesome. I just
Okay.
didn't know if you wanted to go in that direction or if there was more to play with here.
There's always more to play with, but I think we planted some good seeds. I think, like I said, this is available for anyone to go play with. So I super encourage anyone to do that. And it's got, yeah, the visuals are so nice and you can just kind of drag and drop. So I say go for it.
Well, tons of questions in the chat. I don't know if any of these catch your eye, if you're scrolling through or not.
Oh, I see one. What material is a qubit made out of? So that's a good question. And this is also another rabbit hole you can go down if you're interested. It's Friday before a long weekend here in the US. So maybe if anyone needs a fun weekend rabbit hole. There are a few different ways that we can build qubits. So you can build them with ions. You'll see like ionic qubits. There are like photonic qubits that try to use light. So the different labs take different approaches and kind of have their own, like, call it philosophy for why they think the qubit type that they chose will be the one that kind of works in the end, right? Like we're still sort of betting on these different tactics because it's just hard, like science. So yeah, there are different types.
There was some early on that were really wondering, like, okay, what if these are we going to have quantum computers like as a personal device? Are these? Do we think we'll ever be in a world where we have these things at home?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think it's hard to say. I feel like people probably felt that way about classical computers a long time ago. Right now, these quantum computers are massive. They're super big. Most of them require like super intense refrigeration. So it's not even a normal like building that these are in, right? They have to be in these very, very controlled environments. That's another interesting rabbit hole. I'm just throwing rabbit holes at you guys. Quantum error correction is a whole field of study. So part of the reason, like, they have to be kept really, really cold in order to, you know, be useful in any way, but they're also very hard to keep stable, meaning that, like, I don't know, they will react to things in the environment, and then if you measure them, they'll like come out differently, or maybe the superposition will collapse and it, you know, it won't be able to stay in superposition long enough for you to do anything useful. This was actually one of the cool announcements on Google's Willow chip a couple of months ago. I think actually right around the last time that we chatted, they had some breakthrough on error correction in particular, just showing that, like, oh, it actually might be possible to continue growing the sizes of these quantum computers without the error growing exponentially too. So anyway, that was like a bit of a tangent, but there's a lot of environmental factors, a lot of just like engineering that goes into these things existing in physical space right now. So like maybe we'll get to having them at home sometime. I don't think it will be anytime soon though. I will also, I saw that Shubham was saying the last question was a typo. I was trying to say Q1 has, so if Q1 had both H and the C naught, that's a good question too. So when you apply H to one qubit, so put one qubit in superposition and then do the C naught to entangle it with a second one that's initialized to 0. This is called a Bell state. So what a Bell state is when two qubits are maximally entangled, meaning that the state of one, like, most strongly affects the state of the other. You could put both of them in superposition and then entangle them, and they will be like, I guess technically they're still entangled, but the effect that one will have on the other is not as strong. Weird science.
I'm getting to that point. I don't know if you could tell. It's like, man, is it just early on a Friday, or it's like
your gears were turning?
Weird science.
Yeah, exactly. Is matrix multiplication like a lattice? Yeah. So it sounds like someone has been reading their post quantum resistant cryptography papers. So there's a whole like strategy, I guess, in quantum resistant cryptography called lattice based cryptography, and it's basically matrices. That's what that means. But yeah, it like that math will be secure both to quantum computers and classical computers.
There was one question: is this available as an API? And I wasn't quite sure what that was leading towards. I don't know if it's IBM's Composer or just being able to use Qiskit or Qiskit in an easier, streamlined way for many of the cloud machines that offer it.
Yeah, most of them have SDKs. So
Okay.
actually, I think all three, four, there's four that I can think of. There's probably more. But the ones I have played with, Qiskit has their like Python-esque package. Azure has a nice SDK for theirs as well, which has good support in VS Code, as you would imagine. Google also, I believe, has an SDK for theirs. And then Amazon, Brocket is what their platform is called. So lots of options out there.
Broad question. I don't know if it's something to dance with, but how do you approach solving problems that we kind of know today, like we're classic, again, air quotes, classic intuition or the classic approach just wouldn't work or fails in quantum contexts, I suppose. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so this is this is kind of interesting. The entire field of, let's say, commercializing research around quantum is super interesting because for a long time we've had the theory behind all of the algorithms that work better on quantum computers. So you can almost think about it as like if you know the nature of the problem that you're struggling with in the classical world, if it can be mapped to a problem that maybe a quantum computer can do better, then that might be a good thing to try, right? So it's all about like, can you decompose this down to, I don't even know what you would call that, like the most core, like what category of problem is it, and what tools do we have in either world to attack that category of problem?
Well, if I have a question for you, if that's okay, and more to
Yeah.
you, more on kind of what you're up to now and thinking through all this, because I know, and you've told me, and you're obviously a genius in a lot of these different directions between cryptography and between, some AI and quantum. Where does this all kind of sit for you right now? Is again maybe the AI direction kind of what you're chasing and playing with next? Or Arden, do you blend these two worlds, three worlds, etc.?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I feel like it's something, I don't know, in some ways I feel like we're all on this journey, right? We're like, wait, what do I even like to do and what am I up to? Um, I think what I'm running at and where I really like to be, I think the cryptography world kind of instilled this in me too. Like cryptography is one of those things that is invisible to a lot of people. Um, so you have to be really confident in the engineering. The engineers have to be really confident in the engineering, but the people using it don't have to worry, right? Like they can just feel confident that like, oh, this is going to work. My data is going to be protected. It's fine. Um, I think like that's kind of those are the types of things that I like to build, and that's kind of I think where all of these things converge for me is I want people to be able to feel like they can build and the systems behind them and supporting them are just trusted and secure and robust and like understandable and not going to be throwing weird wrenches at them all the time. So that's really like where I like to operate, kind of in that maybe you'd call it like platformy world where it's like I just need this thing to exist and work, and if I need to know how it works I can go figure it out, but like it just needs to do its thing.
I like that. I think that's, pretty pragmatic. That's smart. That's sharp. That's just getting to the core of like what matters, what's important, making sure it does what it needs to do.
That's what it needs to do. Yeah. Yeah. And we're getting to a really cool place, I think, in the kind of software tech security space where things can happen a lot faster. You can do things maybe with like I don't know, details of things are starting to be automatable, right? And so now it's like, okay, if we zoom out, how can we actually connect all of these things together in a way that still works and I don't know, is understandable and makes sense for the context.
Excellent, Ellie. Thank you, thank you, thank you again and again. 1,000 times. I say this too often. I'm a little bit of a broken record, but I do really genuinely super appreciate you making some time to hang out with us, doing a live stream like this. I know it's weird, kind of, off the cuff, shooting from the hip, having fun, but
No, it's super fun.
especially thank you for all your contributions. Thank you for the upskill challenges, quantum programming, quantum computing, all that fun stuff. And hey, the course, the stuff that's getting into cryptography, ease me into cryptography. And again, hopefully there's a sweet discount code to make sure y'all are able to access that if anyone would like to. Do you have any sort of last pot shots? Any call to action? Any sweet stuff you want to say before we tune out here? Or how do you feel?
I mean, thank you to you. Thanks for having me. I think thank you to the audience and everyone who is a huge fan of you. I think it's such a good community. I love learning alongside all of you guys. So hopefully everyone is having fun. I know there's a ton of content on just hacking that everyone can dive into.
It's too cool. Well, last couple things from me, if I may say. Hey, I'm going to scream and shout a little bit about NomCon Capture the Flag again. Truth be told, because that's what I'm on deck next now in like an hour or so for me. So if folks do want to keep hanging out with me, I'll be goofing off in Discord for that, but would really love to see folks participate in playing the game, ctf.nomcon.com. And next time we get together, hey, next opportunity for a live stream, we're going to get together with Corey. Corey Macy, do want to give her a big shout out, give her some love. She's put together a free upskill challenge already on phishing, but now we're going to get a little bit more in depth when she's putting together a full-blown, practical, hands-on, all technical course on phishing and some of that social engineering work that he's all up to. So mark that on your calendars, and we'll see you for that. Hope to see you on the internet. Hope to see you for everything else that we're up to. And hey, get to just hacking, right?
Get to just hacking.
Cool. Thanks so much, Ellie. This has been a blast. I will